Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Boker Tov. It's Shabbat. Good morning on
Yes.
Shabbat.
Yes, yes,
Lech
yes.
Lecha.
It's a good day.
Amen. Before we get off today, can we talk about finding this on your Facebook page? Because I found a
Yes.
lot of things, but it seemed like a lot of things that were like 1, 2, and 3 years old.
Yeah,
I'm
you
sorry, I didn't mean to get into it, but I was.
when you go to the YouTube page, you want to go to the lives. These are all recorded as live recordings. So on YouTube, there'll be a section on the channel that says playlists or
Okay.
videos or lives. You want to go to the lives and then you'll be able to find it.
Okay, that was the problem because I went to Facebook.
Yes, no, you want to go to the
Hmm.
YouTube by Grace YouTube
Okay.
channel. Now,
Okay,
sometimes
cool.
I'm sharing it from YouTube now onto
Hmm.
Facebook. I did
Okay.
yesterday, but you'll
Hmm.
find everything on um
In YouTube
mhm,
instead of Facebook, but okay,
yes.
primarily. Okay.
So the one today is titled The School of Discernment, Lecha.
Hmm.
So we
Okay.
have that. Okay.
Okay, cool.
So good morning, everybody. Welcome to basically the School of Discernment, where we're looking at the process to perceive things correctly from the onset, from the very conception of a thought, a belief, a situation, that we would go through this pattern to make sure that we were in the beginning guarding everything, everything. That it would everything that comes to us would be given unto him as a first fruit, basically, that we take it before him before we take it even before us. That he gets to translate and narrate the story. He gets to be the author and the finisher of every thought, every perception, every deed, every circumstance and situation that comes into your state of being, that comes to you. You're going to run it through this process, and we're talking about this. So as Lecha, comes, I'm probably butchering how you pronounce that, but basically what that
Hmm.
means is the call into covenant consciousness. I'm sorry, something is feeling like I'm biting my back.
Mm.
Got something kind of eating me right now. So, anyways, the when we look at the call into covenant consciousness, that's literally what Lecha means, and what we're doing this now is so beautiful. God is He's always Jehovah Sneakanu. You think you're planning something, and then He says, "Look what I did."
Hmm.
Jesus is like living with a golden child as a sibling, or the Holy Ghost is. You think you've got something, oh, this is good. And then he comes and says, but you don't even know what you're doing. Look what I did for you. And he just comes in and puts the icing on the cake for you. And you're like, oh, oh, but it's beautiful. So what it means is go forth, Lecha, go forth in covenant consciousness. That's basically the call. Um, it- what happens is it's not simply an order to travel. It's not just simply a commissioning. It's not just the Father calling Abraham an apostle and being sent forth to go, a messenger. He's really saying go to yourself. If you look at the depth of the word and the translation of the word, the sages say that literally the phrase means go to yourself, to you. So when we look at this, it's to go for our own benefit and for our own good. And there I will make you what you're meant to be. That's literally the translation that best describes what the rabbinical sages believe God was saying to Abraham. Go for your own benefit and for your own good, and there I will make you who you are meant to be. So, as we go through this journey, I believe that's what the Lord is saying to me this morning, and I hope to you that this is a call into covenantal consciousness, this school of discernment. Literally, Lecha, would you go this way because it's for your own benefit and for your own good, and there I will make you who you are meant to be. So I just am in love with what the Lord is saying in all of this as I jumped into, the Torah teachings of all of these and went through all 54 of the parashahs, it's golly, it's beautiful to look through the word, just the word in this type of framework, let alone everything else. And the Midrash, which it adds that this call was not only to leave land and family, but to detach from the lower nature, from your lower base self, so that the familiar vibrations of the soul tied to old patterns and atmospheres would go away. They would no longer be around you. He's saying, come out of that. Come out of the world. Come out of that old nature that's in you. I want you to come out of that old pattern. And so Abraham was being summoned to a higher frequency of identity. And the Zohar teaches that it means to go to the root of your soul, to the place within where the divine will be revealed. So, again, deeper levels of discernment. You have to go deep before you can ascend. People always want to ascend and go higher with the Lord, but they don't want to go deep, right? They don't want to get into where, ooh, some of this stuff she's talking about, I think the pastor warned me about it, might be new agey. It could be witchcraft. It could be holy and divine. you know, you know, we've got to quit being scared and go forth. We're the bold lions. We're the tribe of Judah. We're to blast forth, and I'm not scared to try new things because he said, "Behold, I'm going to make all things new." And if I'm fearful to touch something new or process through something new, I'm divining the I'm dividing myself from my root internal soul to the place within where the divine will be revealed. I'm choosing to stay fragmented because I won't seek. I won't seek and I won't find and I won't knock because I'm scared. So, in other words, the journey outward mirrors the journey inward. So if you're scared on the outside, this is a good rule for you. If you're scared to try anything new on the outside, new food, new cultures, new clothes, new colors, new anything, if you're just set in your ways and you've just always worn black and that's the only thing you're ever going to wear, that might be an outward sign that you need some flavor with the Father in your life, right? You might need to try not always getting you know, butter pecan ice cream. Let's try strawberry today. Knock yourself out of your rhythm and see what happens. Sometimes you have, we every step we take, every move we make, everything we partake of, it's a cross from the physical terrain into the inner passage through the landscape of our consciousness. It's an outward expression. And most people are just living and they're not getting to know their self, their own rhythm, their own paths, why they choose what they choose, when they choose it. Why is butter pecan your favorite? Why do you only want butter pecan? Why has that butter pecan become a stronghold? Right.
Oh,
If try something new, flavor it up, get something different, And so the rabbinical teachers see in Abraham's obedience to birth this, he had to birth faithful trust, not blind belief, but relational fidelity. He was relationally faithful, right, to the Father. He had to birth that obedience. He had to become the father of faith. He just wasn't born the father of faith. He had to become the father of faith. And because he responded to the unseen breath, the Ruach, the Holy Spirit, that called him beyond intellect and inheritance. Grasp Abraham, wasn't like us. We don't really understand inheritance, most of us, because we don't come from bloodlines that have large inheritance, estates, businesses that you take over. But Abraham did. Abraham, his father was a pagan priest, basically. So, he had a lot of pagan influence in his life. His obedience turned the sound of the Ruach that spoke to him and told him what to do. It turned sound into covenant. You can have the Lord give you a promise, but until you turn that promise into obedience and movement, the covenant is just a vapor in the wind. It doesn't have any meaning yet. You have to put meaning to the promise, to the purpose, to the covenant, to the word the Lord's given you. So thus in, rabbinical tradition, this portion, this Torah portion we're in this today, is not about leaving in the place, it's about leaving a pattern. And I love, because that's what the Lord is trying to do here for us. He's brought this Torah up off the page into our life while we're doing the school of discernment. And he says, will you leave this pattern? I'm asking you to leave your old pattern. And it's spiritual migration. I love it because what time of year is it? The butterflies are migrating, the birds are migrating, and he's saying, "Will you just come with the rest of creation and migrate where it's warmer? Let's get out of that cold winter pattern that you have and come where you're moving from instinct, not only from instinct, but now into intimacy because you have understanding. You're not moving from reaction, you're moving from revelation because now you have an understanding of how to do this. Before, you just thought, I don't even know how, nobody taught us how to move through these patterns. They just said, you're free, you're saved, go to heaven. And they didn't teach us what the heck to do in between, right? So we kind of got lost in these, in not knowing, not having revelation. We have a basic instinct, like I'm instinctively getting things, but because there's no revelation and deep, deep intimacy with the understanding of even ourselves, it's hard to move from cultural identity to covenant identity if you've never been told, go inside, go be quiet, go be by yourself, go seek the Father. And that you had these quiet times individually. Most of the times, when I look back at how I was brought up, we had a lot of put your head on your desk. Remember those days? You're in school and they just say, okay, we're going to turn off the lights and everybody's going to lay down and put your head on your desk. And I'm like, okay, why? What'd we do wrong? I didn't know rest. I knew I did not know anything of rest. Rest was not ever anything. Nobody ever said, let's take a break in my life. There was there was that was not heard of. Like literally in my life, we ate standing up while we were working. The dirty hands, we didn't even wash our hands. You were just glad to see a sandwich come by and you grabbed a sandwich off the tray and you kept on going. You did not stop. And that was a pattern for me, right? So when people were taking breaks and resting, even, when I was playing sports, I was a beast because I had been bred never to stop. And I would have literally died on that. My heart would have exploded on that court before I sat down. I would have never said, "Yeah, take me out. I'm tired." I would have I would have never said, "Take me out of the game. I think I ripped my ACL." I would have nobody would have known. I would have just kept pushing forth because that was a pattern that was birthed into me culturally in my family. We were very, very workhorse, right? We were warrior horses. We did not break. We did not break. And so that pattern had to be something that I'm still breaking off of me, still breaking that pattern off of me. And I have to do it with faithful trust. I have to trust that God will complete whatever's left. So that pattern, when I start something, I have to finish it. I can't leave it undone till the next day. I will work all night and day to get something completed. I don't like things left unfinished. So, I have to look at that apostolic mirror and run that pattern through the 12 gates and find out why. How can I leave this old pattern? And that's what the school of discernment is about you first discerning your inward being so that you can process it, get everything healthy, whole, healed in your inner being so it doesn't flow outwardly broken and fragmented, and that it's holy and not distorted, that you don't have a distorted frequency. And so sometimes that's the issue when people, well, let's just stick with the apostolic mirror. So when we look through this apostolic lens, we can see the same pattern, magnified in Abraham, what the Lord told Abraham to do. He magnified that pattern in Yeshua's life. Yeshua said, I and the Father are one, John 10:30, right? The consummation of what began in Abraham's walk. Abraham had to leave his old pattern, his old lifestyle, his old culture, and behold, the Lord was going to make all things new. So Abraham left the comfort of Ur, and Yeshua left the glory of heaven, right? You have to leave the familiar behind. Both journeys required Lecha. It required a conscious decision to walk into that covenant promise. They were both called to leave everything they knew behind and walk into this new creation and learn who they were really going to be, their fullness of their identity. So the call is still active today for all of us. Every believer is invited to go forth. Every believer is commissioned to go forth, not just geographically, like Abraham, but spiritually, emotionally, and perceptually. What we have to go forth spiritually, emotionally, and perceptually, and not just geographical, but geographical also. You're to have dominion and be partnering with the earth and all of creation to fulfill the mandate of the Messiah. So to walk by faith is to pass through every one of these gates of discernments and to sanctify every sense so that we perceive, breathe, and act from the realm of covenant union, right? I'm moving and I'm perceiving and I'm breathing, and everything I do is coming from the understanding, base understanding. Everything has to be built on the realm of covenant union. I don't do anything unless there's covenant union, and that's with the Father. And then I also have discernment to know when to move forth with these gates with the people I'm in covenant with, like you ladies, right? I have to know when it's time to move, when it's time to birth, when it's time to go forth and not just hover. There are times when we have to hover. There are times when he says, shut it down for a little while. We need a sabbatical, and I want you all to dig deep in with me and then come back together for a relaunch, right? That the battle has been won. This has been a good leg of the journey. This is what I've wanted you to do. You've taken a lot of territory. And what we're doing is taking territory within and without. I'm taking territory internally and also externally because I'm walking into wholeness. And therefore, there's just not inward fruit, but there's outward seed being given for others so that they can find comfort and understanding and get through these gates correctly. So we're all as one, and we're all, I and my Father am one. And I can say that I'm echad, that I have got to a wholeness in this area, in this situation, in this perception, thought, belief, right? So, from the call to the gates, this is where we're transitioning over. So rabbinical wisdom often describes the soul as having gates. That's why we're talking about this. There are gates, windows, your eyes. Literally they say the eyes are the windows to the soul, right? Straight to your heart. So openings through which awareness, emotion, and intention flow. So these gates are our awareness, our emotions, and from where our intentions flow. The prophets spoke of the gates of righteousness, the gates of praise, the gates of perception. In our generation, the Spirit is re-illuminating these gates of tools of testing and transformation, because these gates are also tools of testing and transformation. Abraham's journey can therefore be traced through these 12 gates of discernment, each representing a sense or a faculty of the soul that's been refined by faith. So we talked, I'm just going to briefly go over these 12 gates pretty quickly. Because we're doing this every day, I'll review them every day. The eye gate, ion, is to see truthfully. The ear gate, ozen, is to hear without distortion. The nose gate, off, is to discern and breathe an intention. The mouth gate, pay, is to speak what builds kingdom. The mind gate is rosh, to align thought with the Torah. The heart gate is lev, to fill from oneness, not lack. The hand gate, yod, is to act from wholeness, not haste. The foot gate, regel, is to walk in peace, not panic. Womb gate is rechem, to create in covenant, not confusion. The skin gate is or, to sense his presence, not shame. And the spirit gate is the ruach, to breathe his frequency. You're now breathing his frequency. The union gate is echad, to live as one with the Father. So each gate reveals a layer of discernment that was tested in Abraham's life, from what he saw, what he heard, and what he breathed, to how he created, walked, and lived in union. Okay? How you see, how you hear, how you breathe is going to be how you walk and create and live in union with not only your own self, but with the Father and everyone else. You have to become in covenant with yourself. I hope that you're aware of that. You have to covenant with yourself and accept these covenants from Yeshua and receive them. You have to form a receptor to receive the covenants. So this pattern helps us to receive this covenant. So when we explore this Torah portion through these 12 gates, we're not just studying a story, we're entering into a pattern. And if you take the word and everything and run it through this pattern, you're going to be able to see the fragrance of faithfulness come forth. So seeing truthfully like Abraham when vision was dim, right? We have to see truthfully. Hearing purely when other voices arose. So, we can see the pattern in Abraham's life as we walk through the story with him. We can see that he was seeing truthfully when vision was dim. He was hearing purely when other voices were rising above it. He was breathing discernment when the atmosphere shifted. He was speaking covenant when chaos surrounded him. And he was walking in perfect oneness until promise became flesh, until promise manifested on earth as in heaven as it had been spoken. So this is the journey here, this metamorphosis really of senses into sanctuaries, where every gate becomes a portal of divine communion. And it's a time to be grateful that you have to thank the Lord for your 12 gates as you go through them. Thank you, Father, that you're giving me understanding about my eye gate. Thank you that you're giving me understanding and revelation about my ear gate. So Abraham was the prototype, but the wife is the fulfillment. The bride coming into full maturity as the wife is the fulfillment. Abraham was the prototype. So if we can understand Abraham's walk, the father of faith, we understand how the wife is to move. So the eye gate was, Abraham to see truthfully. Abraham's first test was to see what could not be seen. He had to see what could not be seen. Genesis 12:1. Go forth to a land that I will show you. Now, how can you go to a land that you can't see and he's not telling you where it is? Right? You're like, well, all right, which way? North, south, east, or west, Father? Which way? Go forth to a land that I will show you. So he was called to leave the visible for the invisible. He didn't even know where he was going. To look through the lens of emunah, faithful trust. He was looking through the lens of faithful trust. The eye gate purifies perception and teaches us to behold not the lack, but the promise. He didn't focus on, well, he's not even telling me where to go. He didn't focus on what he didn't know. He focused on what he did. Go forth and I'll show you some land. So just go and you'll eventually get there. So he's focused on the promise, not the lack, not what he didn't have. Not he was seeing through the eyes of covenant, not comfort. Right? He didn't start thinking, well, I'm not going to have enough food. I don't have any protection. You're telling not to take anything with me, not even family, you know. So he has to see through the eyes of covenant, not comfort. And the fruit that was born from this is vision aligned with divine truth. And that reveals purpose beyond place. His vision aligned with the divine word from the Father. And that revealed that purpose was more important than place. It was beyond place or comfort. It was beyond who he was born to be on earth. The Father was calling him to go forth to a place he'd never seen, but that he would be shown. And that's kind of all of our journey in Christianity. When we say yes, we don't even know what we're saying yes to, or we probably wouldn't say yes, right? If we had the full depth and understanding. We would ponder on this for a hot second, right? But the ear gate, ozen, is to hear without distortion. So Abraham moved because he heard, right? If you don't move when you hear, eventually you'll no longer hear. Faith begins not in movement, but in the sound that calls you. So You have to hear without distortion. You have to hear the sound that's calling you. And it says, now the Lord had said unto Abraham, really, in Genesis 12:1, the Lord had said unto Abraham. So hearing rightly determines walking rightly. So the ozen shares its roots with balance, the inner ear that keeps alignment with the word. And Abraham's hearing was tested because these voices of fear and famine rose in Genesis 12:10, yet he returned to the altar to hear again. He knew to return away from the lack, the voices of fear and the famine, to go to the altar to hear again. So we have to filter noise through the altar of prayer. And prayer can be journaling. Prayer can be speaking in tongues. Prayer can be song. Prayer can be communication. This is prayer because where two or more are gathered, he says, there I am amongst them. And when you're having conversations about me, I'm recording them in heaven. We know all these things from the word. So filter noise through the altar of prayer. And this is prayer. And a faithful ear produces balanced obedience. So it's not obedience that makes you faithful. It's that perception of being faithful to the covenant before you get balanced in obedience. Sometimes people try to manhandle obedience and they think if I'm just obedience, then I'll be faithful. It's the other way around. Your faith is birthed through your eyes and your ears, and therefore it becomes balanced with obedience. That's why love supersedes the law, right? That's why the blood supersedes the law, because that faith over supersedes obedience. He wants, what's he say about works without faith as what? Dead. So as I'm perceiving all of this and I'm chewing on it, I come to think about, well, is that what's going on with the ones where he said, I know you're not? And they said, well, Lord, we did this, and this for you. Were they doing obedient acts without faith? There's the question. Was there faith involved in this? You can feed the hungry, but are you going into the scary places where you have to feed the hungry? Or are you making it super comfortable for you and convenient for you? Is that faith or is that just obedience? We have to look at perceiving and understanding with the Father. So the next one is the nose gate, and this is to discern breath, atmosphere, and intention. This is a number one gate over this Torah, by the way. There'll be one gate that is predominantly louder, and you'll see that pattern louder than other gates. And the nose gate for this Torah portion is the number one loud gate. This is the one where you discern breath, atmosphere, and intention, which is beautiful because I love that we're starting the School of Discernment. We're on the third day of this, and we're at the third nose gate, about discerning breath, atmosphere, and intention. That's the number one gate on the third day. So the nose represents discernment of motive and movement, the smell, the aroma of the spirit. And in Hebrew, off, AF, means both nose and angry breath. So it speaks of divine respiration, God's emotional awareness. This is where you're discerning his emotions in this, his breath in this, his atmosphere, his intention. That's the nose gate. Follow your nose because it knows. I think about the toucan and the Fruit Loops. I think about follow your nose because it knows, right? Does it know the Father's breath, the Father's atmosphere, or the Father's intention? Or am I looking at how I am emotionally reacting to the situation? Is my reaction over his reaction and awareness more important to me? Is it about me or is it about him and what he's trying to show me about myself and him in the situation? So when Abraham in Genesis 17:3 falls before God, heaven breathed on him and it changed him from Abram to Abraham. And the added hey symbolizes the breath of God. He changes their name. And when he changes their name, he puts the hay in it, the breath of God in it. And this has faithfulness that has a fragrance to it. It is when God has sealed you into the scent of surrender. You have surrendered, and that aroma of faithfulness is now sealed on you by the breath of God. And this is faithfulness that is really the scent of oneness. You've really surrendered all of you to the Father. So, in the discernment level with this, it's the smell before you step. You have to smell the divine respiration of heaven here and know what it is and discern intention before participating. What's the intention of the Father in this? Well, I'm not going to participate in all of this until I discern the intention. And I'm not going to act and move before I understand the Father's intention with all this. So the fruit for the nose gate in this portion is that the faithful carry the scent of the Spirit, moving by breath, not impulse. We're led by the Ruach HaKodesh, not our reactionary impulses, because I'm not moving in me, I'm moving in Him, and I'm moving in His emotional awareness, His motive, His discernment, His movement that I'm discerning with Him and through Him. And the frequency is intention purified, atmosphere discerned, and that's a frequency of 741. So 741 hertz is what, when you're focusing on this gate and you're trying to really focus on what's speaking God's emotional awareness here, what's His intention, what's His design for this, I might want to put on some 741 hertz frequency. Okay. That's intention purified and atmosphere discerned. And that they have measured the frequencies of this gate, and 741 is what they have found for the frequency. Understanding frequency is really just vibrational tones that we're all walking in and how it changes in different atmospheres. The gate that Abraham goes through next is he speaks what builds kingdom. He speaks the mouth gate, fourth gate, right? Mouth gate. Every altar was built that he built was a declaration. And there he called upon the name of the Lord, Genesis 12:8, right? His words became spiritual architecture. He built something with that confession, and he turned it in each confession invited divine habitation. So Abraham built an altar at all of these markings with the Lord as a confession, a testimony. Behold, here I called upon the name of the Lord, and here I divinely habitated with him. The pay gate governs authority, the mouth gate governs authority, because what we decree establishes the atmosphere. It establishes the foundation of what we believe. So what I speak is my atmosphere. It's what I've chosen as my life, as my atmosphere that's going to surround me. And, your discernment at the pay gate is you speak what builds, not what binds, right? You're speaking life, not death. I'm going to speak what builds and doesn't bind. And then the fruit of this is when my speech and my spirit align with His spirit, the altars arise and heaven responds. And death and life are in the power of the tongue. That's the truth that you get at this mouth gate, is death and life are in the power of the tongue. Proverbs 18:21. The fifth gate's the mind gate. And that's to make sure that your thoughts are aligned with the instruction of the word, the Rosh, the Torah. You align your thought with the Torah, the mind gate. So, and he brought him forth abroad and said, look toward heaven and tell the stars, so shall thy seed be. So Genesis 15:5, God renews Abraham's Rosh. He renews his headspace. He gives him divine imagination. He tells him, look abroad, look towards the heavens. He's telling him to imagine. He's awakening his imagination, his divine imagination. So faithful thought aligns with instruction, not trauma. Faithful thought aligns with Torah, not trauma. So I always look at my thought, is that Torah or is that trauma? It's real easy to do that. Is that true or false? And if it's coming from a place that is led by trauma, it's always false. Always. Because revelation doesn't come from trauma unless you've gotten divinely processed it through these gates. So I have to make sure that my imagination is not running with the trauma. not how bad Judas betrayed me, not how bad, Sister Susie stabbed me in the back, not how bad that affair, ate me up. I have to make sure that my thoughts, Torah or trauma, because whatever I choose and perceive, I'm going to live. I get to be the chooser. I can let him be the author and the finisher of my faith, or I can let my trauma be the author and finisher of my faith, which has given the devil a whole lot of territory in your life. So Abraham learned to reason revelation, right? To think like a covenant son, not an orphan wanderer. How could this possibly be? He had to believe in the impossible. Everything the Lord told him was absolutely impossible, fraught with there's no way, fraught with doubt and unbelief. So, to think like a covenant son and not an orphan wanderer, we have to learn to reason with revelation through Torah, not trauma. So with this, the discernment here is you replace reasoning with remembering. Okay. It's okay to remember, but have you reasoned with the Lord with it yet? Have you reasoned with the word? Usually not. Usually the trauma was just building and we were engaging with it, and we didn't know that when we engage and ponder upon that trauma, we're creating a stronghold of bondage there for us. When my thoughts focus on the trauma and not on remembering through the reasoning, right? So thoughts that harmonize with the Torah produce peace in transition. Thoughts that harmonize with trauma produce everything but peace, complete fragmentation. You'll never be one. You'll never transition. You'll never have peace. You will always be wandering in a desert land. So the apostolic insight here, the yielded to the word insight here is Romans 12:2. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And this is what most people have not done. They've not thought about how their thoughts literally are the rudder to begin with. What you see, hear, believe, perceive, that's the rudder of your life. And if you don't process it through the word, then you're leading it. And we all know we're about as emotionally mature as a frog when we're led like that. We're not able to we lose it over the least little things. We can stay obedient for a little while, but because it's not been triggered through love and faith, we're going to fall. We're going to backslide. We're going to, fall off the horse, literally. But when you're transformed by the renewing of your mind, you're literally transformed to a higher level of you, of who you're really supposed to be. He says, go, Abraham, go to this land and I'll show you yourself, basically. This is what the Father's asking us to do. Will you come and seek ye first the kingdom of God and righteousness with is within you? Can you just come inside you with me? Can we just do that? Can we just do you and me? Right? So be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. He has to do that. And the sixth gate is the heart gate. And we have to go from the feel, we have to believe that we are one with him and that we're no longer in lack. We're no longer fragmented. And he believed in the Lord and he counted it to him for righteousness. Genesis 15:6. He believed. We have to believe that we are one with the Lord and that we're not orphans. So faithfulness flows from a heart settled in oneness with God. I believe I'm one with the Father. I'm one with him. He's one with me. This heart gate tests emotional allegiance, right? Will we feel from covenant or from fear? Torah or trauma, right? Covenant or fear. Abraham's heart remained tender through the delay and the disappointment. He'd been given a promise that was not absolutely impossible, but everything pointed that it was not going to happen. He was told he was going to be the father of nations. He couldn't even produce one heir. And then they're both in menopause. Neither one of them are able to have sex anymore. And the father says this is going to happen. So discernment, emotion becomes holy when anchored in oneness. Abraham didn't let his emotions outrun the covenant. He never let his fear, he let his faith lead. The Father has said, and so it shall be. And it doesn't matter what my body says, what Sarah's body says, what the entire earth says. God has said, and it is done. I'm in oneness with him, and what he says shall be. A healed heart feels truth before it fears loss. This is how you know you're moving in the right direction. A healed heart feels truth before it fears loss. Okay. So you're going to feel truth before you feel fear if you're really healed in that area. If there's some fear involved, we know there's still some heart issues that have to be healed. So I have to go back up and look at, okay, where is the binding in all of this? The hand gate is the next gate, and it acts from wholeness, not haste. So you have to feel oneness before you can act from it, right? You can't act from a place you're not. So you have to act from this place, from the hand gate, all five folds, right? Not haste. And he gave him tithes of all, Genesis 14:20. So that Yod symbol, the YAD symbol in Hebrew, symbolizes both work and worship. That Abraham's hands acted from wholeness. He gave freely, he fought righteously, and he built faithfully. You know, the hand reveals the motive of the heart, it manifests what the inner man believes. So, you know, it's the outward expression here. We're moving into outwardness, but you know, we're still on the inner inside. We still have to get this acting from wholeness on the inside of us, not hate. So the discernment here is to touch nothing birthed in panic. Touch nothing birthed in panic. That's a big hello to the American population, to the world. Touch nothing birthed in panic. The fruit is holy hands move from rest, not reaction. Rest, not reaction. And the apostolic reflection here is we have to lift up holy hands without wrath or doubting. 1 Timothy 2:8. You know, I have to lift up my holy hands. I have to act from wholeness and not haste. I'm not going to lift up holy hands without wrath or doubting if I'm moving in haste. There's going to be doubt, there's going to be wrath. So don't touch anything. And that's why I tell everybody, step back, man. Step back. Don't get sucked into that whirlwind. That's not the Father. That's panic. That's fear. You're making decisions based on lack, not provision. And so there's times when you have to be careful and safe. You know, we can look at what happened during the shutdown. We can look back at these patterns and how our leaders and ourselves moved through that. Did we walk through these 12 gates? Did we make decisions based on these 12 gates? So the foot gate is next. After I'm acting from a state of wholeness, not haste, I can then walk in peace, not panic. So arise, walk through the land in the length of it and in the breadth of it, for I will give it unto you. So Abraham's steps were prophetic. He had to walk the length and the breadth of it, and then it would be given to him. So this gate establishes shalom, steady movement without striving. As far as you can see, you'll be walking in peace, north, south, east, and west. It's steady movement without striving, and that everywhere his feet touched, covenant took root. If you're walking in covenant, everywhere you walk will take covenant will take root. Everything you touch. That's why the land responds to the righteous and it eats, swallows up the unrighteous, right? The discernment here is peace is your confirmation, panic is your warning. Fear, panic, that's you're not moving from the you're moving if you're in the kingdom, it's the south side. So we have to have peace as our confirmation and panic as a warning. We want our fruit here to be steps that are guided by peace and they inherit territory. If I'm walking in peace, I'm going to be expanding my tent pegs. That's how you extend your tent pegs. You walk in peace, which is your confirmation. Panic is your warning, and I'm going to walk in peace while I inherit territory. Does that mean the territory is going to be the atmosphere may be peaceful around me? There may be war all around me, but I'm going to be walking in peace because I know the Lord has said, and this is already mine. I'm just walking into it. So the prophetic echo here is how beautiful are the feet of them that preach the gospel of peace. Isaiah 52:7. You know, when I walk in peace and not panic, everything is beautiful. Everything is lovely. Even if it's a dark walk, even if it's a war walk, it's still going to turn out peaceful even in the midst of all chaos and horror, you can be walking in peace. The womb gate is where we create in covenant, not confusion. And Sarai said unto Abraham, go in unto my maid. It may be that I may obtain children by her. Genesis 16:2, right? Here the womb gate was tested. Ishmael was born of impatience, a creation outside covenant timing. But God's promise still stood. Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, in Genesis 17:19. So we're looking from Genesis 16:2 to Genesis 17:19. They had already decided on Ishmael, and God is promising them he's still going to make him the son. It's not Ishmael. I'm going to give you a son unto Sarah. So this Rechem gate, the womb gate, symbolizes creative power, birthing promises the right way. So even if you screw it up and form an Ishmael, God is going to continue to birth that promise in the right way. You didn't forfeit it just because you got in the way. So the discernment is you wait until the word is fully breathed upon. You have to wait. You can't form your own path and help the Father out like Sarah did. Oftentimes that's usually the issue. We form an Ishmael and then we wonder why it's not doing what the Lord said the son would do. And we're so focused on Ishmael, we don't go ahead and birth Jacob, Isaac. So, what wait until the word is fully breathed upon, and this fruit in this is what is conceived in covenant carries eternal lineage. What's birthed in confusion carries contention. We see that unto this day. So we have to make sure that what we're conceiving and birthing is created in covenant and not confusion. I think I'm going to stop right there for today and just we'll stop at gate 9 and we'll start at gate 10 tomorrow and finish up studying this and First Corinthians 14 with Swordship Sunday tomorrow. But focus on these gates and patterns and go back and look at this process in your life and as you're going through this. Um, what pattern do you need to leave behind? You may have some of these gates more mature than you realize. You may be doing a lot of this without having understanding before that you've walked some of this pattern before. But now let's put revelation to the process and it'll be a mature walk. We won't just be falling into it or stumbling into it. We'll have understanding of how to go about this and process things rightly. So I'm going to be quiet now and open the floor for you ladies.
Good morning. You guys started a couple days ago with this,
Yeah,
right?
2 days.
Yeah, so I'm just catching up with everybody, but yeah, it's really good. You've given me a lot to think about today, just like just different gates and then responding how I respond to things, and even what you said about not responding out of like panic. I think that's good. That's a lot to even just that piece of because I can see where I've responded to things out of fear and panic, and it hasn't gone well. But when I've done things because I felt led of the Lord, that it felt easy, and that led to more breakthrough, and it was more fun as opposed to you know it almost like it's like I'm being forced to do something and then like fear and panic, and I'm not really. I just like it's either outside pressures that I'm giving into, or myself or my thoughts or whatever. But when it's the Lord, like, it doesn't feel like I'm being forced into something. It just feels good. So that's kind of what I took from that.
Yeah, peace over panic, peace over pressure. Um, and I mean, there's a lot of pressure, when the Lord told Abraham to get up and leave everything he had and knew, there was some pressure on that. But he was faithful with it anyways. it's not that, when we go through this, we're not painting rainbows and unicorns, but it's not that everything's going to be perfect, but it's going to be, you'll be able to walk it in peace regardless of the situation. So I posted the writing in the link on the chat. You can get it there, and I'll put it on GroupMe for this Lecha, so you can have the writing on that. I'll put it on the GroupMe too, and you should be able to open that up and save it as a PDF. Okay, so you'll have this, um, and you can kind of go over it if you want to. I know that'll make Zelen happy.
I just have a question. Like, so all of these gates, like, they're basically like body parts, but how do those relate? Or are they completely separate from, like, when you hear about like the East Gate, the West Gate? Like, are they connected?
Yes, they are. So you can look at the gates that they're the tribes, the sons, the gates, they're all the same. They're all the same thing. I have lined up the sons and the tribes with these gates. The months, you know how the month has every gate has a gate. The body part, every month has a body part. This is a pattern and a rhythm that has been in the Hebrew culture from the beginning. It's been that 12 apostolic governmental authority is given through these things. And there's many layers to this. You can't just you could expound on one gate, I'm telling you, for decades. Like one gate, if you just work the gate, the tribe, the flag, the symbol, the gem, that's why we do every month. We look at the month and we look at what are we doing here in Heshvan, right? We know if we don't go forward, if we don't progress forward, that's literally a falling back. So you know, when we do these things and we're looking at perceiving things and understanding things, we have to understand this isn't the see, in America we're taught a teaching is the finality. It's the kit kat and caboodle, but in the word it's everlasting and it's eternal and it goes on forever and ever and ever. And so this teaching is very, very basic, very, very basic. You could go and take this school of discernment teaching, take it to the word, and go with it forever. This pattern here, if we don't have an internal kingdom, we don't have an eternal kingdom. Okay, we have a lot of fear, panic, doubt. We're not sure, we're confused, we don't even know if God's real, although we've had 1,000 encounters with him. All of that is in us because that internal structure, we don't have the tools to feel safe and secure because we don't have revelation and understanding. So, what the Father is trying to show us is, can you leave that old pattern of philosophy, Father Son theology? Can you leave those old patterns that were put on top of you, that bondage that was put on top of you through the revolutions that we had, through the agricultural revolution, through the science revolution? There was a lot of revolutions that distorted Christianity. It mixed us. It there was a mixture brought in. So what the Lord is trying to do is try to take the mixture out of us and get us back to the pure original design and intent of Christianity, of Christhood, that it doesn't have a thing to do with the church. Okay, can we all quit blaming the church for not getting us there? Because the church can't get us there. We have to get us there with the Father because the kingdom of God is within. It is never, ever going to be corporate until we can get at one with ourselves internally. Until we're echad, none of us corporately can be echad. And you can only get echad corporately with other people who are echad individually. So this is why he talks about a remnant. This is why he says in the word, there'll be a lot of people who come to me and I'm going to have to say, I know you're not. Because the internal kingdom with him, the intimate relationship with the Father internally, the Ruach HaKodesh, was never settled internally through the first 7 to 8 gates. so that it could be an outward expression. So if anything that you're doing hasn't been processed through the first 8 gates, it's works without faith. It's dead. And it's one of those things that, I know for a matter of fact what my dead works were. I knew that I followed man and did what man told me to do, and I was following man's trail that told me what it was going to look like to be a woman of faith, and it got me nowhere but suicidal. I thought there was something severely wrong with me because as I was following their path and their trail and what they were saying, I was getting further and further away from my father, from who I knew, from the encounter, the walk, the closeness that I had with him. I was moving away from that. They were drawing me into this system that had been formed over decades that was Babel and was not the Church of Christ. That I know. And so, what is the Father trying to do now? He's trying to Joash this out. He's trying to get his church back. He's trying to take back his territory. And he's asked us, will you partner with me in this? Will you let me take you back because you're my territory? I need you back. And then I need everyone around you back. So go forth and make disciples. That's what he said from the beginning. What did Jesus say? Go forth, make disciples, preach unto the nations, go. And that's what he did. And so, we have to understand we can't be mad at the pulpit or the church for not making us Christians that are kingdom and apostolic. Only we can do that. The church can't make me yield to the word of God. It can't make me a messenger of the word of God. In an hour and a half, maybe twice a week or 3 times a week, if you go to church 3 times a week, hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 times a week, that's 6 hours. How many hours are in a week? Is that 10% of that week that you've given to the Lord? You know, I have to, it's not it was never meant to be my salvation. I and the Father had to do that as one, not anybody else. Nobody else can bring me to the Father except Yeshua. And I'm mad because a pulpit's not, or a leader's not, or a person's not. We have to take the responsibility back on us. We're trying to, deflect and blame everybody, everybody, when the responsibility with my Bible is with me and it, with me and him. So, in this school of discernment, we have to take some responsibility. We have to repent for blaming everybody else for where we're not, but us. We're big girls. We all can read, we all can write, we all know what the word says. So, there's no reason why we can't just do it. I don't have to wait for permission to do what he's commissioned me to be from the beginning of time. So, we have to take these 12 gates and get out of some of these structures and patterns that have us bound and weakened. This is a war. We've got a few more years of war to go, right? And we need to be equipped and able to breathe his spirit, his Ruach HaKodesh, and move mountains when he says, move it. We have to have the faith to be able to do that. And we have to have love above all else. Is my motive love? Did that help, Lacey, or did I just confuse you more?
No, that was helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Angel, we haven't talked to you in a while. What's going on with you? Can you talk?
Yeah, that was everything is, I needed to hear everything that's been said. Like the patterns, not knowing, I mean, peace, equal, and confirmation. I think I've always been one to act out of, like you were saying earlier, comfort. And I mean, in reality, it's, everything that I've learned from the get-go, just going on whims and um and truly just acting out of emotion and didn't realize that um was it part of about the confirmation um equals revelation, or that's not what you said. The discernment, you know, is actually a revelation, and not knowing what to do with that. uh,
Just not knowing the
I'm glad to be
process.
back on. Yeah, and trying to learn actually what you're saying and put it into practice. I've got a whole lot of unlearning to do.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think that's all of us. And that's a beautiful place to be. Some people would get frustrated and say, oh, I'm so tired of unlearning and relearning. But most of my life has been unlearning. And then when I unlearned, the revelation just came. Um, so, for me, I have to tell myself and allow myself, I have to give myself permission, right? Because somebody told me I'm a big girl now, right? And that I'm supposed to have all this together. I'm supposed to be the whole package already. But I'm eternal. I'm eternally going to be morphing into more and more and more of him. So I have to allow myself to just say it. I'm being transformed through the 12 gates of discernment. I'm going to be transformed through these 12 gates, and give yourself permission to be not whole yet. Like, it's okay. I have to accept myself. I'm still not all the way whole yet, and it's beautiful. We look at it as like a chore, like we're not, like there's something wrong with us because we're not fully
Yes,
formed
and that
yet.
when you said that, I was like, wow, because that is very. I mean, it's been going on for a few weeks now. Like feeling like there's just something wrong with me. Like, do you really know God?
Yeah.
Has
Yeah.
everything that you believe that you thought happened? Was it really God, or was that just
Right.
yourself?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
start questioning everything. And
Hmm. Right, because you partnered with that thought, right? When you partner with that thought and you receive it, and you say, well, maybe, gosh, right, man, right? Why, maybe I'm not
if I
right,
really know
right?
God and really love God, why do I keep ending up in the same place over and over and over again?
Right.
Caught in
So,
a cycle. Caught in a cycle.
again, looking at the voice that you're allowing, right? So when
Yeah.
I hear that voice, and I say, what I just say is, you're right, I'm just being transformed. He's calling me to know him more and more. He's not saying I don't know him. He's saying, you don't know me to the level that I want you to know me. And my body is picking up on that, and my mind is picking up on that. And it also could be the enemy playing me, right? It could be multiple things. But instead of looking at that as a negative, angel, when that perception comes upon you, that maybe it's not real, maybe it's, maybe I don't know him, maybe he's not even real, maybe all this is just a way to control us, like everybody says. Everyone has those thoughts. I don't know. Well, maybe some of you haven't had those thoughts, but most people I talk to, if they're real, they have those thoughts. And so I have to understand that my perception, again, has to go back to covenant. What does his word say? Because that's the only truth I really have. And my perception has to be purified with that word. My breath has to be aligned with it, and my being has to be unified. And I have to give myself permission to say, I don't know him all the way, but I'm going to. You're right, because I don't argue if it is the accuser of the brethren. I don't argue with him. I say, I don't know him to the fullness. There's a lot of him. There's a lot of the Torah that I don't understand yet, but guess what? I'm going to. He's going to bring the revelation. I have to be patient and let him build me and make me. He says, I'm making you. I'm transforming you. You're being transformed. You're being saved. You're constantly being sozoed. You're constantly being saved. Every day is a deeper walk into your salvation. So I just tell myself, you're going to see truthfully, Connie. Don't worry about it. You're going to hear clearly. Don't worry about it. You're going to discern atmospheres by the Spirit. Don't worry about it. And that your mouth is going to build kingdoms just as quickly as you can bring hell, you can bring the kingdom. And everybody knows I
Mm.
can bring it in 2.5 when I'm out in the flesh, that you don't want that. But understanding as much as your passion is and how quickly you can destroy everything, because we have to know our factor of destruction. How powerful am I to destroy things? Pretty powerful. Guess what? That's how
Pretty
powerful you
quick.
are to build things. So if you can blow things up in 2.5, you can build in 1.2. So understand that. Understand, as much as you screw things up, that's just as much as you can do better and bigger in the kingdom. So my hands act from rest. My feet walk in peace. I have to say this over myself because I've believed a lie for a long time. I've believed who I wasn't. I didn't believe that my hands just had to work, 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 work to prove myself, right? That I can rest and my hands are clean and they've done enough, and that my feet now walk in peace. I've ran away way more than I've just stopped and walked. You know, I can create in covenant and I can sense his presence in purity. I just have to get away from all the noise. I have to go find and build an altar, right? And building the altar itself is just an act. Have you ever built an altar? Have you went to the creek, got rocks, and just built yourself a little altar, sat there and listened to the water and prayed? The act of building, looking at each stone, thinking and talking about to the Father about each stone on that altar. What does that mean to you? Every stone should mean something. As you're packing the dirt in to hold the rocks together, however you're doing it, you're building a fragrance of faithfulness, a memory, a muscle memory, a mental memory, by the way, of going to the Father. Maybe you need to go get 12 rocks. And this is this gate, and this is, and process it. Keep your 12 rocks with you and say, okay, gate one, and I'm going to write on that rock what it is. This is the eye gate. How am I perceiving this? And I'm going to write down, this is what I'm thinking. And then I'm going to go to the word, but this is what the word says. So now the word has to clean what I'm thinking and wash it. He's washing and renewing my mind. Get this, washing and renewing my mind with the word, with Lecha, with the milk, with the purity of the white milk, washing you with that soft feel. You're soaking and mikvahing in the milk. Okay. So that's how we bring forth oneness with us in a situation, and we get past ourselves and the doubt and unbelief. And we just have to take the time to do it. You've got eternity, but take the time now on earth to do these things. Bring heaven to earth for you. Don't be waiting till you get home with the Father. Bring heaven here now and enjoy your life. It's it's worth living. Your life is worth really living life like this, not the old patterns that have us bound in death, and we're wondering why it's a mess. So I think, working these processes will help all of us.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. But we all have those thoughts. I mean, I had them yesterday. I mean, maybe some of you don't, but it's predominant in this, that we would also always have doubt coming at us. It's part of our tests and trials. It's part of forming what we're trying to do here. We have to have the doubts come so we can reflect them, learn to
Yes.
deflect, learn to say, nope, don't receive
Mhm.
that thought, get out of there. And, start talking positively and speaking positively and creating kingdom, because it's probably been a minute when those thoughts come that you had time to do that. It usually comes when you're tired and weary and haven't had your Shabbat.
And speaking on that note, also, when you said that, it made me think of that uh, we should not take the thought that, oh, how the mighty have fallen, because you have, and it's an awareness that's being awakened in you of what he's going to take us to, and over and beyond, to expand our tent. That's just what came to me when you said that. But I love how the month of Heshvan is basically into this Torah portion also, because not only is it the eighth month, but that means new, and the blessing is rest and transition. I'm looking in the healing book, and the area of healing. It's moving into a new identity. Lecha, you know, lek me is from the word holek, to go, and it's by foot. And then so we're looking at also the rego gate. So that's by, you have to go by feet. Use your feet to move, right? And so I mean, this is, it just seems like so much fun. And then
Hmm.
um, moving into your identity, and then action. It's what the parasha is saying. Get out of your old self or your old identity, and then, and the warfare on this, I'm reading from this book again. I want to remind you that this fight is against obstacles to your call,
Yes.
because he wants to bring us into our destiny. And
Yes.
so, but I so when I was reading the parsha, or the parsha portion, or the segment for the chapters for today, it was like, I always knew that, we always knew that Sarah laughed. It's been preached so much, right? But it also says that Abraham laughed. He laughed. So I'm thinking, okay, wait a minute, they're a couple, and I hate to go this way, but I thought, okay, so they laugh, and so they get jiggy again. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
so it's like, yeah, and I thought, oh, and they're laughing at it. Like, okay, this is going to be cool. This is really going to be fun. So they
Hmm.
must have really had some fun before.
Right.
And
Right. Right. Right.
even though, yeah, I just couldn't help but go that way. They're a
Yes.
married
No,
couple,
that's
right?
good. That's good.
Yeah, yeah. And so then, out of that, I know there's so many things that hit me today about, oh, when you were speaking, because you're talking about Yeshua Snickadoo, reminded me totally, 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 where you think you're getting ready to say or do something, and it's not. And sometimes it's something that you plan, and sometimes it's just, something that you just naturally do. Like, and took me to the time of the day of the war in Jerusalem, when I had clothes in the dryer, and I had to just, and I realized that I was texting my sister, talking to her about it on WhatsApp, and it's like, okay, so what am I doing now? I'm talking, and then I realized that, hey, uh, this texting is not enough. I need to talk.
Yes.
I need to speak, because there's too much in that has happened today that, praise God, it didn't affect me, but it affected so. I mean, it. I can't say that. What I mean when I say that is that it. I wasn't the one that was drug away and tortured, or my family killed, or murdered, or anything like that. That's what I mean. But it affected the world. It
Yeah.
has affected, and it's still doing so. You know, so, and so there was an indirect type of thing, but all of Israel and the world mourned on that day. And here I thought I was just going to go into the dryer, get some clothes out. Met this guy, I believe, from I probably told the story before, because I'll probably forever tell. I need to write it down. But anyway, he came out, and I think we both had that same. We just talked and talked and talked, and so that's one of the things that the Lord just has so impressed in me, and he impressed it in me, and I know he's done it in other people, because I see them talking about it in their sermons, where he makes the supernatural natural.
Yes.
And this guy was, his head was so heavy. What I'm saying, he was so brilliant and so smart. It's like it was like, I'm thinking, God, he's tough, in his intelligence, and not,
Hmm.
and wisdom and knowledge. And I thought, oh my God, and so, and he was Orthodox, because they dress a certain way. You can
Right.
just tell them, you know what I mean? And so anyway, and we were talking, I thought, oh my God, how am I going to keep up with this? And so I was able, but I always look for ways to interject, and to, because the Lord will give you ways, things that you're supposed to speak about as a person is talking, and you navigate to me, it seems like we navigate our way in a conversation while you're so closely listening. And at least that's what I do. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you're just listening. Because people just need to talk. But it was like, we both needed to, and so I was interjecting on because he talked about so many different things, and so I got to basically just say that I said, some of the things you're talking about because you had so many experiences, and I'm sure, and it sounds like you were I mean, you're being on a college campus. Some of the things you experienced, I got to basically to speak to him about the Holy Spirit, and so. And don't ask me exactly what was said because I don't really remember. But you know how you that happened. I thought, oh my God. And so what the thing is that I stood there in the midst of that, just saying how amazing God is. Watching Him just orchestrate this whole thing and letting Him know that you're there. He's there in that. And I thought, I'm just okay. I'm just gonna get. I need to get my clothes out to dry. Look at what the Lord has done. Look at what the Lord has done.
Ah, that's beautiful.
Yes. Ooh,
Yes.
ooh,
He
ooh,
just
it
he
was
just
one of
sneaks in
them.
there in the mundane, doesn't he? He just
Oh,
comes right there
it
in
was,
the mundane and just blows your mind
yeah.
away.
And and you cannot deny his presence
No.
because it's so tangible. You can't say, "Well, I wonder what that was," or like maybe when you got saved, because you mean when I first got saved, I realized that this is a real confession, and it's not. It's I had to think, why did I do that when I first got saved? Well, in I was we came out of Catholicism, and so the thing is, you had to confess you had to confess. I went to confession every week. And so the thing is, so when I got saved, I was getting saved basically every week,
Yes. Yeah.
showing up to the altar. It was
Yeah.
so funny. And I just realized that that's where that came from.
Yes.
So Angel, don't feel bad about, stuff. We're totally evolving all the time,
Yes.
and we wonder, oh my God, I'm in such a bad place. I got to learn all this stuff. Yes, he's making us anew. Holy God, yes, thank God you're making us anew, because Lord, I don't need to stay the way I am. Lord, I would never make it, Father. So I'm just, oh Lord, holy God. And so many other things
Amen to
were
that.
just hitting me about during the conversation, but that's all I'm gonna, because I didn't write anything down, so I'm just gonna. That's what comes off the top of my head, and I'm just so grateful, to be here with you, ladies, and so that we can learn
Yeah.
together.
Amen.
We are in a community, because it's like my pastor before I came. Went to the synagogue, used to always say, that, because he had 8 kids, so he had a lot of kids. But the thing is that he would just say, even still in your family, our children, as they grow up, they're going to make mistakes. Those are the times they need to make mistakes because they're growing. And in the body and in this community, this is a time that we're learning basically the things that need to be renewed in us in this community that the Lord is bringing us up in. Because when He sends us out, just like when we go out into the world, we'll have most of those things tampered down or not even have them in us, and we'll still be forever learning because we'll be forever transforming. And I'm just so grateful to walk with you guys. So thank you for letting me be here with you,
No, thank
all
you.
of you.
I mean,
Thank you for being here.
you guys are all a great blessing for sure. For
So
sure. We're all crazy blessed. Crazy blessed to have one
especially
another.
crazy, crazy, crazy. And we didn't even know each other when we were saved, honey. So it's like, whoa.
Yep. Yep. That's
So,
the truth.
but
That is
but
the
I can say,
truth.
look what the Lord. I can say, look what the Lord has done.
Amen.
You know.
Amen.
Amen.
All right. Well, ladies, I love you. I think I'm going to depart off of here and go about and get about our day. Shabbat shalom.
Okay.
And I'll see you
Awesome.
tomorrow morning.
Okay. Lahitra. Oh,
Have
see
a
you
blessed
later in
day.
Hebrew.
Bless you. Bye bye.
Love you, ladies.